Also, I like space that you don't see the items. And for instance, if you come into my home and you want to take off your shoes, I don't like them just out. I'd like to have something where maybe under a staircase where you pull it out and the shoes go in there and you push it back in, you don't see them.
So kind of everything in its place, a place for everything?
Yes, that's important.
Okay.
Yeah. And a pantry in the kitchen, a walk-in pantry is important. I like a butler's pantry, the walk-through between the dining room and the kitchen as well. I love glass cabinets. What else do I love?
Why do you like glass cabinets?
I love, because I have a lot of china and dishes that I
okay.
love to display in there.
So display. I like them too from a design element because I think they create, in some instances, a little bit more of a sense of depth as opposed to just cabinets.
Yeah.
And I like to see, I think kitchens that use both are very successful.
It forces you to keep organized too.
Yeah, it does. It does. But it also turns a purely practical set of cabinets into something that can be more decorative and can display some of those items that are precious to you.
Right.
So let's start with the entryway. This entryway on these, this is someone else, right?
I don't have to have the double staircase, but I do like a curved staircase.
Okay. So what does the entry mean to you in your home?
Oh, a welcome. A welcoming.
welcome.
It sets the tone for what you're going to see in the entire house. And I like a big, kind of a rounded entryway that, as you gather people, you don't have to hurriedly rush them off to the room you're going into because the space is too small.
Yes.
I like to be able to gather there for a little bit, chat, and, even if it's just to take off coats and all of that.
I see, I'm going to just editorialize on that one because that is something that in my work has been very important because I see that so often and I talk to people about, if you're greeting 4 people at the door or 6 people at the door, what does that mean to you space-wise? And you're all tripping over each other and someone's bringing, bottles of wine as host presents and you're taking off coats. And I see that so often. Where it's just, and that's why I asked you that question. It's not something people think about.
Right.
Now, you may live a life in which you don't entertain, you don't entertain very much, and that's fine. So then that design reflects
would be different
that. But in
you.
your instance...
Yeah. And you as an architect, that's what you're trying to ascertain from your client, how they live their life.
How do you live, right.
Yeah.
Part of my job is, what is your, what are your daily patterns, for instance? So, how do you deal with breakfast in the mornings? Is it something on the run? Is it something you like to sit down? Is a kitchen island the place where you would have that? Or do you like to use a dining table? Those kinds of things. I mean, how does your house and your daily life, how do they work together?
I like a lot of workspace in my kitchen.
Okay.
I like the granite countertops in the kitchen. I like a TV in the kitchen, but I don't like it to be out all the time. In fact, anything like that, any electronics, I don't want to see any of that. There's got to be a space for it. I have my television in a cabinet that I can close, and no one can see it when it's closed.
Do you work in the kitchen, per se, when you're prepping for shows and stuff, or do you have an office?
I have an office, but I tend to do a lot of work in the kitchen.
You do
I can watch TV in my office on my computer. I have it set up on the computer as well. Or I can watch in my kitchen. I also have a television in another room that serves as a small kind of study area. But my actual great room and living room and sunroom, and then I have more of a California room right now that there's no electronics in any of those rooms. Those are just...
So, you're obviously pretty flexible on where you work, and so a number of these spaces need to accommodate the ability to work.
Right.
And if I am guessing correctly, it's mainly on your laptop?
It is.
As you prep for shows?
I have a built-in desk in my kitchen, for instance, area that's kind of connected to my butler's pantry.
Okay. So it sounds like you have 3 areas that you can work in.
Yes.
Okay, and you'd want to keep that. That's important to you?
Flexibility? Not necessarily, no.
Okay. Is there anything about, do you have a favorite out of those 3 at all?
No, not really, no.
Are they all light-filled? Do they have similar characteristics?
They're all light-filled.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is somewhat problematic with the computer.
Yeah,
especially when it's streaming in, especially in my office,
right.
The sunlight streaming in behind me from the window.
Okay.
So.
All right, so the hallway, something that's, I'm just going to recap it, is spacious enough to be welcoming. spacious enough to hand out a glass of champagne or something during the holidays, right? And let people move into the house from there. Where would they move into? What spaces do you see people moving into then if you're doing that kind of entertaining?
I'd like it to be a little bit seamless, no stairs to go up, no, just everything kind of flow, and they can go wherever they want, actually.
Okay.
My kitchen's a central point right now.
Oh, it is?
Everything seems to flow off the kitchen.
Okay, so would you go into a kitchen area, kitchen
Yeah, but I
family,
don't
or would you have a separate living room? How do you like to do that?
I currently have a separate living room also.
Do you use it?
No, it's just a little showpiece living room.
It's a little museum.
Yeah.
Now, if it were positioned differently, would you use it? If it were designed differently, is it a space?
No.
Or is it something you just don't need in your life?
No, I wouldn't let anyone be in there because I don't want them. There are areas in the house where people are not allowed to go.
So we should put a one of those little ropes.
Stanchions, yes.
Yeah. Walking through Jefferson's house kind of thing. This is Lucy Ann's history. And,
Have you ever gone through this much consternation with a client before, Damian?
This is everyday stuff. Absolutely everyday stuff.
All right, we're gonna have to wrap up here for today's session, but we're gonna give everyone an idea of what happens from this point now. This is the initial meeting with your architect, Damian Farrell, as you design your own home.
Yes.
So what happens?
What we're doing is what I like to, for me, I've learned over the years that a home is really bringing your dreams alive. People do dream, and I get many people almost a little bit embarrassed when I ask about dreams about the house, and I ask about photographs and pictures. And it's really, you want to, and I say, you have no idea how critical that is for me to formulate and to listen to you and develop the same vocabulary that you're using, which is what we've touched on this morning. So that's how we start out, is what is this dream? What does it feel like to you? What are the adjectives you would use? How does it affect your daily life, your social life, your daily life? If you have kids, how does all of that work? Does your current home hinder that in any way? Or if you were to do it differently, how would you do it differently in order to streamline things, make it more comfortable? So we actually make people think about their current spaces. Sometimes they don't. You just adapt, right?
Right.
And so, if the dining room were this and that, would you use it more? And that's why I ask you about your living room in particular. So,
right.
If your living room were in a different location and sort of part of the mainstream, would you use it? Those sorts of things. Then we go on and actually create what is formerly known as the program, which is literally the list of spaces that you need.
And I'd be interested in finding out, because you're the man that knows about all of this and you see this on a daily basis. What's new out there? What are people putting in that I don't know about? And could we incorporate that into my dream home?
The living room one, and that's why I picked on that one when you brought it up. That one is still kind of a 50-50 out there.
No one's really doing that?
Well, or they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if you can show a solution where that living room is a part of the mainstream, if you will, of the home,
then there's a reason for it.
Then there's a reason for it, and then people will start to use that.
Okay.
But I would say most commonly right now everyone is into the casual living. So from your entryway you transition to a family room that may include breakfast area, would open to the kitchen, fireplace. So a larger, I hear gathering, I hear keeping. The word keeping room sort of scares me. That goes back to those giant the stone mansions and castles of
I'll take one.
Old England. Well, except they had no windows in them, and and it was all stone.
Drafty.
And that was the keeping room. The only thing that kept you warm was the fireplace. So then it's a matter of actually identifying the program. What actual spaces are you going to need? What do you think will be comfortable space-wise? Getting into the detail of things like how much closet, what sort of amenities are you looking for in your bathroom, in your kitchen.
Well, I have one room, if you want to call it a room, that's an entire closet.
Okay.
It actually was half of a bedroom that we made into a closet.
Okay, so those are the critical things, because you could imagine if we just, if we went away and came back with half the size of that.
Oh, we'd have to buy another house.
Yeah. Or you'd be finding another architect, I think is more likely.
Or throwing away some of my clothes. All right, Damian, we'll continue this next week on the show here. It's a great lesson in how people put these kinds of things together and what you need to be thinking about as a potential homeowner of how you want to put your house together with an architect helping you along the way.
Yeah. People need to let go and really get to the core of what they really, really want and not feel embarrassed about anything. Because I see that. I know that sounds strange, but we see it. You know, I just had a client I sat down with the night before last, and we're doing office building, and this applies across the board. Any kind of work. It's the same kind of thing, same kind of questioning. And he literally sat there and said, you know, so what do we do? So he doesn't mind that we're going to do an office for him, an office building. But it is this question, you know, this mystery about how do we do this?
How do we do it?
How do we start?
And this is how we do it.
That's what I want to try to do with this little series.
All right, part 2 coming up next week here on Damian on Design on 1290 WLBY. In the meantime, you can visit his website, learn more about his business at dfdgonline.com. And I'll go look at my plot of land this week over there. Thank you so much, Damian.
Thank you.
All right. Can't wait to see what our house looks like. You're listening to the Lucy Ann Lance Show on this Saturday, 1290 WLBY.